Hey, Assalamu alaikum, and we're back with another fantastic edition of, I don't know what I'm going to call this. I think let's call it Conversations with Khan for now, because that's a fun way of doing it. But conversations with amazing colleagues at Sassel who have so much to share, deep, vast experience, and just colleagues that I look up to. And part of the series, today I'm actually blessed to have two wonderful colleagues with me. I've got Matebello on my left, and Matebello and I started at Sassel a month apart over 10 years ago, and just brings such a wealth of experience. The colleague to the left of Matebello is my colleague Zodwa, who started a year ago, right? Almost, yeah. September last year, and Zodwa is in our Sassel for Good space. She's going to unpack what that means. And today I thought it'll be a great opportunity for the three of us to talk about, number one, something that you've heard or you've learned, or something that you believe that has guided you with where you are with your career right now. And it could be just one thing or two things, whether it's a quote that has stuck with you, something a leader has shared, or even your own reflections as well. I think it's important that as much as we look externally for that sort of that knowledge, a lot of it is also internal as well in terms of how we navigate the world. So I'd love for us to share a little bit about that. And then the second thing is, maybe this is more applicable to Matebello and myself because we're slightly more mature in the game.
Than I was not right here.
Of course, yeah. This is young beauty here. So, what is that advice you wish you could give? Maybe not necessarily your younger self. I guess younger is by default because of how we measure time. But something you wish you had knew before, or something that you realize now that sticks with you. So with that, let me kick things off, and then I'll hand the mic over to the left. So two things that really stand with me and stick with me in terms of how I apply, for example, my leadership principles, is I'm always considering what can I control? So what am I responsible for in the organization, my portfolio, my responsibilities, and those sorts of things. So what can I control and what can I influence? And influence speaks to those things outside of my control, but it's something where I know I can add some form of value, whether it's structure, advice, anything like that there. And I find that if there's something I can't control or I can't influence, I make peace with it. And often with leaders or people in professional environments, we get so caught up in things that are outside of our control.
What is that? Is that how you are presently, or are we talking advice, or just how you've navigated your career?
I'd have to say navigated, because I wasn't always like that. You know, I think sometimes you get hung up on things that are outside of your control or outside of your influence. And it's so important where I am right now to make peace with that and to say, okay, cool. I can't influence this, or this is out of my control. And it could be anything. It could be macroeconomic conditions. It could be an advertising campaign that I'm not part of, or whatever it is. And then to refocus myself, to say, what can I control? What can I influence? And then how do I scale that? As opposed to getting fixated on those things I can't scale, I can't influence, I can't control. So with that in mind, as you navigate through your professional career, what stands out for you like that, where it's something that either you're trying to figure out now, or it's something that it clicks with you and it makes sense? And again, we're not speaking ultimatums. We're not speaking this is advice forever. It's like, this is where you are right now, and this is what you're thinking about right now. So Matt, over to you as our group media relations manager. Tell us a little bit about just something you want to share about your journey and something that stands out for you right now.
Yeah. Okay, thanks for that, MJ. I think what stands out for me right now is the importance of, from a leadership perspective, is the importance of the value of kindness. I think we live in a world that kindness has become is seen as a weakness. And I think it's missing in leadership. And also kindness going both ways, because we expect our leaders to be kind towards us, but we forget that they too need some kindness. And I suppose we can refer to kindness as empathy, because we expect them to know so much, to get so much right. And we'd say, oh, but that comes with the level, that comes with the pay, that comes with... It's uncharted territory for some of them. So a bit of empathy, a bit of kindness, a bit of grace, to say, some people are also figuring it out as it goes. And I think when that kindness is also given to us, where a person says, but you're also still learning, a bit of grace this way, because I think we live in a world that has become also intolerant of mistakes. And I mean, in my line of work, media relations, reputation management, mistakes are costly. Mistakes are very, very expensive. So that also creates a high intolerance of mistakes. But there's very little understanding that comes with the fact that how did the mistake happen? Was it pure negligence? Did you think? It's just the wrong call.
I want to unpack that a little bit, right?
Yeah.
So, do you think that we've either A, to some extent, commodified kindness, so that we made kindness a tick box exercise without reflecting on it, or B, we consider, like you speak about kindness being a weak point, but to the other extreme, kindness has become the cliched where we talk about, be kind, but we don't spend enough time to actually think what is kindness and how do we choose to be kind? Because
Absolutely.
I think often we also undermine it by just saying kindness is something easy, but it's not. It's hard to be kind.
It's very hard to be kind. It requires you to take a step back and put yourself in someone else's shoes and say, if I was in the same situation, how would I want somebody to deal with me? But then we also expect people to be like us. But Mina, it happened to me. I never, and nobody showed me kindness. Nobody said, go home, because, I'm sorry to use the cat example, the cat died. But you fail to understand, even though you might not be a pet person, to that person, the cat was more than just a pet. So it's not about you. Just say, this person has suffered a loss. I may not understand the loss, but I need to respect the loss and say, you know what? It's been rough. Take a day off. Take it. We've got you, even if it's a day or two. And ask the colleagues to kind of respect that. You don't have to understand the pain or the challenge, but respect the person and their feelings. Yes, perhaps it's workload for you goes up, so you are inconvenienced, but understand that it's temporary. See the person. And I think that's what makes great organizations, and also that's what makes great relationships, because media relations as well is the business of relationships. And in creating those relationships, first of all, you must see people, respect boundaries, and value what they do. And I think at the heart of it as well, kindness, empathy, grace, all of that comes in the fore. And that is also, like I say, with relationships, in terms of leadership, you must give them that grace. Because the grace, hopefully, it doesn't always come back this way, but it helps in managing your peace of mind, because there's certain things you can't control to the point that you made. But what you can control is who you become at that point. You don't want to reflect and say, oof, I didn't show up, the way I'd be proud. I really nailed that person to the wall, no.
So I wanted to ask Zodwa then, just on kindness, and we speaking perhaps as elder millennials on this, where there's a generational, without being cliched, there's a generational expectation of struggle. And I'm saying, let's break that cycle where we're not romanticizing struggle. Right? Sure, struggle is important, it's part of growth, but if I can make something easier for someone else, why not?
Okay.
So how does that play a role in the workspace, where on one hand you're historically romanticizing struggle and celebrating it, but we ourselves are navigating and say, look, I worked really hard to get here, and hopefully the next generation doesn't have to work as hard. So that's a bit of a tough spot as well. So is that something you navigate in the organization?
So for me, it speaks to something that another colleague spoke about, which is psychological safety. We come into these environments with baggage from our previous jobs, where maybe we didn't gel as well with that environment, or that environment it wasn't for us, and we made the decision quickly that it's time to leave, whatever the circumstance. And going into a new environment and finding all of these different colleagues and finding your way with them, we have different relationships with different colleagues. But the psychological safety, it's in saying that, I do have a cat for me, which is the same as somebody having a dog. You might not see your child as being the same as a dog. I might see them as equal. But for me, showing up and saying to you, Matebello, the cat has an issue and I want to take a day off, or my neighbor has an issue and I want to take a day off. To you, your neighbor is just somebody, you know. But to me, my neighbor could be somebody who helped me through tough times. So for me, coming to you as elder millennials and saying, you know, I've got this issue, it might not be such an important issue, but to me, like somebody with all of this experience coming to you, it is a big issue. And I'm telling you because I feel safe in this environment. And I'm looking to you to direct me or to give me that kindness, to be like, you know what, take the day off. If whatever is going on in your life is making you not show up to do the work 100%, then I'm extending that kindness to you. Yeah.
And that's such an important point, because I think historically as well, if we look at, and I don't necessarily say the old guard, right, because you don't want to make distinctions and comparisons.
Yeah, absolutely.
But even if you look at the way leave is structured, so it's a very weighty thing, right? So you have family responsibility leave, and that is very specific because it's built around either the notion of a nuclear family or something like that, and that is valid as a reason to not show up. Whereas, what about other individuals in your life that don't fit that bracket of family, but you have that connection to them?
Absolutely.
So I think that's part of our challenge in terms of how we navigate the workplace, is to also challenge and question those sort of the status quo in terms of structure. To your point, you might have a significant relationship with your neighbor, and that shouldn't be undermined just because either A, the policy itself is regressive in how it's developed, or B, the manager doesn't have that same weight or gravitas. So I think that's so important as part of this conversation. But Zodwa, coming back to you, tell us a little bit about what you do in the organization. Let's unpack that quickly. Yeah. So I know this video is going to be slightly longer, and that's okay. For those who are enjoying it and watching it, I'm sure they're going to stick around. And for those who have other commitments, don't worry. This video is going to be up for a while. You can come back and enjoy it. But selfishly for me, I'm enjoying this conversation. So let's talk a little bit about what you're doing, and then I'll come in with the next question.
Yeah. So I'm part of Cecil for Good, our employee volunteering and payroll giving platform. So basically my job is to get our employees to volunteer and commit themselves into, you know, like just taking an hour from their day or 2 hours from the day and giving back and showing our community that we care, you know. We're stationed in different parts of South Africa and globally, and you don't want to just exist as a company, that you're not part of the community around you. So one of the things that I do is I connect NGOs with our employees to do acts of service in our communities.
So tell me about one of the NGOs that you've connected with recently, and you've done something with them and employees that made you proud.
Oh my goodness. There are so many, because Cecil for Good works with like over 120 organizations that we've partnered with that are our beneficiaries. But one of the ones that I'm obsessed with currently, because we've partnered with them for World Book Day. Okay. So on the 23rd of April, it's International or World Book Day. So what did
you know that?
This is good. So what I'm trying to work or do now with the World Book Day campaign is try and get Cecil volunteers to bring a book that not fundamentally changed them as a child, but something that, you know, like a story that resonates with them from their childhood. And to bring that book, you know, it doesn't have to be like a serious book.
No, but I think books kind of come like, okay, sorry, continue.
So bring a book from your childhood or your child's favorite book and read that to our beneficiary, which is Hearts of Hope. And for that World Book Day event, we want to encourage literacy, because now everything is digital. You can read on your smartphones, you can read on your iPads. We want to encourage that love for reading, you know, like touching the book and going through, you know, making voices. Nowadays, there's so many platforms where you can just find a book digitally and the person can read the book, that we've lost that sense of book reading and narrating and taking people through a story, you know? So Hearts of Hope is the organization that I'm obsessed with, but that's because of World Book Day. Yeah, I love all of our organizations, and I'm so glad that I get to work with them. Yeah.
We should do a lot more of these, because I want to hear about this. In fact, if we can, every 2 weeks or so, talk about a different organization and highlight what they're doing. So for those,
with them.
Definitely. Yeah. So for those who are checking us out on LinkedIn, #Cecil for Good, you'll see a lot of the historical campaigns. I know we're very big around Mandela Day, but to your point, there's things happening throughout the year, you know, whether it is flip-flop days, or whether it's cancer shave-a-thons, whatever it is. Lots and lots of opportunities for our employees to get involved, to give back. Tell me a bit about payroll giving, because I'm happy to give my time, but what's the other part of it? Like, what's payroll giving? For those like me who are ignorant about that.
Yeah, so SASA for Good is about leveraging our employees to do acts of service within our communities. How we leverage that could be, Matebello has a skill set that one of our NGO needs, like marketing. If you're an NGO and you want people to know about your organization, to volunteer, someone like Matebello can be like, you know what, I'll give you an hour of my time to teach you how do you communicate. This is why I'm here, I'm going to poach you. Wait, see.
I tricked you into making it about you. No, it's about SASA for Good.
And I'm here strategically to get them to volunteer.
Enlightened.
Right? It's about leveraging what you're good at and what you're good at and going to the organization and saying, listen, you guys only have 10 followers. Let me teach you as MJ who works at SASOL, how do you use your platform to garner more support?
Absolutely.
So that's one of the things that I'm obsessed with at SASOL.
And do I have to do that in my free time, or does SASOL give me time to do that?
So SASOL has 40 hours of volunteer leave. So that's leave that's
No,
not
don't
part
get
of
excited at the 40 hours.
I'm going to do that on like Friday afternoons, you know.
That's my
strategic
Friday.
leave. Yeah,
But it's also good for the soul. You know what they say, that a person who giveth, you get more. Giving is such a rewarding experience. It's not a bad when we're spending Friday. Yeah? Continue.
And it doesn't have to be an organization that's within the province. So if you are from Limpopo, you're from the Free State, you want to take a day off work from working in Gauteng to travel to Limpopo to volunteer. That leave is for 5 days. So however you want to use it throughout the year or whatever period, an hour or 2 hours, whatever. So that's one. Volunteering your skill.
Yes.
The second is physical volunteering. So taking a day, an hour or two, going to the organization, playing with the children.
Okay.
If you want to support environmental initiatives or something to do with animals, it's based off of what you care about. Because
is it across certain?
Yeah.
You care about animals that much.
Kruger National Park. In fact, we actually do a lot of work with them. So the I believe
those birding weekends.
Yeah, the birding weekends is one of them. So I'm going to cash in this 40 hours a year.
So is it under certain streams, like I know STEM education is key, ECDs, early childhood development, like what else? Because I'm sure there are pillars.
Yes. Yeah. So that all of that information is available internally, but there are different pillars here. Okay. And one of the things that I like is that as an employee, you get to tell me what do you care about, and then we then onboard that organization, because we can't be everywhere all at once.
Absolutely.
You know. So for you, Matebello, you can be like, you know what, I care about an organization that's in X community, and that might not be a community that we factored in. So based off of our employees who nominate the beneficiaries, we then get to contact them and say, listen, we've got 3 different pillars of volunteering: in kind, donations, like bringing things, or it can be skills, or it can be like what you're talking about, give as you earn, where every month you get to decide as an employee if you want to give a portion of your salary. That could be up to 400 Rand, that could exceed 400 Rand, but then we match that as SASOL. So there are lots of ways to volunteer.
You know, I just think one of the things that we need to do more, I think, as a people, and the people who've been in the industry. She's young, she's still on the come up. We are like,
these greys aren't loyal.
It's the giving. If I look at you asked earlier about careers, I think for me, I will never forget the people who gave of their time and their expertise to mentor, to teach, those are the people who changed my life, who actually changed the course of my career. Because those are things that you carry, you know, and they open doors. And people, I mean, money is important. Let's no offense.
But it's hard for me to give money. It's easier for me to give time.
Jeez, you give money all the time. No, time is because we hardly have time. It takes you having to step back and say, I need to create the time. Be intentional. Mine is easy. We're like, SASOL for Good, deduct this amount of money, merchant.
It's an
so, you know, and I feel good that somewhere in the background I'm contributing to something. But having to sit with people who don't know what we do or need the services we can provide and say, listen, I can give you this time 40 hours. I commit to doing 1, 2, 3, because you need to impart. You can't do it for the rest of whatever, and give that really, for me, moves them. Of course, the person must be receptive.
Yeah.
Because you can teach, and people are like...
You're not going to amahela your message.
Yeah, they're not. And you're like, where? You're like, but when you don't make it about yourself to say, I've been giving and giving and nothing is moving. Because sometimes you're like, guy, but I've been teaching and teaching. You are not teachable, or you are not improving. Then people are discouraged. They're like, what's the point? But I think I must say, career-wise, I still am grateful. And you are one of the people who teaches me things even when I don't want to do them. I'm like, sis, no, let me show you this new tool. I'm like, why another tool? And then later on, I'm like, hello, okay. Because we can be so set in our ways.
I'm about making life easy. So if I'm teaching you something, it's because I want to make your life easy.
But it also makes you smart. Because it pushes you out of your comfort zone. You're like, try this new tool. I swear it will. I'm like, now I have to sit and try it and be whatever. But I think the teaching never stops. And it's important in your career to constantly be exposed to even colleagues that teach you and ask to be taught.
Yes.
Because you never know. And you teach a lot. You teach everybody from us to leadership. He always wants to teach.
I love to share. And, we were having such a great chat, and we were supposed to speak about a lot of things, and we haven't got a chance, but I'm just so happy with what we actually spoke about today. So I think let's I don't want to say let's put a pin in it, because this corporate jargon sometimes gets to me. But let's pause for today. Let's commit to each of us that we'll do this more frequently. We'll talk about different topics. I'm going to open it up to whoever's still with us and watching this now. What would you like to know? What would you like us to share? And again, it can relate to what we do in terms of professional and title, or it could just be about our experiences. And I think that's something we want to share. SASO colleagues who are watching this as well, please also don't think that this is an exclusive club. I want to chat to you. I want to find out more about what you do. I want to learn from your experiences as well. I believe every single person in this organization is remarkable, which is why I love doing these chats and these conversations. So colleagues, if you will commit to me, let's do this again.
Let's do this.
For those who are still watching, thank you so much. For those who are watching this in segments as well, because we know life happens and stuff, we love that you came back to it. Please continue engaging, and let's have more of these conversations. With that, Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam.
Wa alaikum salam. There we go.